Vendure 1.3 is out now, and I want to take a few minutes to show you around some of the new features. First of all, I want to talk about the search index. So Vendure uses a search index to optimize the speed of product searches in the storefront and in the backend. The way this works is that it takes data about products, their facets, their collections, and a bunch of other stuff, the assets that they have, and it puts them into a single table if you're using the default search engine, or it puts them into Elasticsearch. And the problem with this is that when you make changes to the catalog or update a price or change a collection filter, then the data in the search index is going to be stale. So we need some way to update the search index. Let me show you how that works. So here we're going to just change a price. We update that price, and if we go over to the job queue, we'll see a couple of things have happened. We've sent two jobs, one to update the search index for that product variant, and we're also reapplying the collection filters, because when you change anything about a product, it may affect whether or not it belongs to one or more collections. Now, this works nicely for smaller installations with fewer products. It keeps the search index always up to date. The problem is when you have, say, thousands of different product variants and maybe 50 or 100 or 500 different collections, it starts to become a bit of a problem. I'll show you how that can look now. First of all, let's clear away all of those jobs so that we start off with no jobs. And I'm going to update a few product variants here. Let's go to here, change stock level, go here, and we'll change stock of those, and let's do one more, let's change the stock here. Alright, so I've updated a few product variants, and if we look over to the job queue now, we'll see that there's a whole bunch of jobs that have been fired as a result, and some of them are still ongoing. Now this particular project I'm working on here has about 10,000 product variants and about 50 collections. As you can see, to apply all the collection filters takes around 30 seconds here, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 jobs have been sent to the job queue from just those few actions that I made there. So this can become a problem. It's doing a lot more work than it needs to do in the background. That's using more resources than it should. And when it comes to things like automated import scripts, that maybe you want to synchronize your stock levels every night and it's going to update all the variants, you're going to end up with really a lot of background work being triggered by that. So with version 1.3 we've got a solution for that, which is that we can batch these jobs together, and I'll show you how that's done. So I'll jump over here into my Vendure config file. I'm using the default search plugin at the moment, and I'm now going to pass a new option to it, which is buffer updates. I'm going to set that to true, and I will now restart the server. Alright, I'm going to do a similar thing to what I just did. I'll update a few variants. Let's change the stock on that. Let's change some stuff here. I think we did one more the first time around, so let's do this one. Okay. Now if we go over to the job queue, we can see there's still no jobs have been fired. So what's happening here is that all those changes have been buffered, they've been batched together, and they've not been sent off to the job queue yet. And you might notice this new symbol here, this little alert sign. If I hover over it, it says search index as pending updates to run. If I click on that, we now see run 6 pending updates. So what this is going to do is going to take all of those changes that will be made to the search index, it's buffered them, it's kind of kept them back, and it's now gives me the option to run them all at once. And not only will it run all the jobs, it's also going to be kind of clever about it. It's going to try and minimize the actual work that gets done. If you remember the first time round, the whole collection was rebuilt like 3 times. That's unnecessary. We should only have to run the collections filters once, and then after that we can run any changes that happen to the various product variants that I've made. So let's run that now and see what happens. So I click on this. It says it's running the 6 jobs. Let's have a look how this works now. So first of all, it's applying the collection filters. So we know we have to do that first. But this time, instead of running it 3 times, it should only run it once. And this is going to take the same amount of time, which was about 25 to 30 seconds. Okay, and now that's done. And now it's running some updates to the search index. In fact, it only ran one job. And if we look at this, it's actually consolidated all of the variant IDs into a single job rather than running 3 separate jobs. And now I want to show you another new aspect of the search API, which is that we can now index and filter by the stock status of products. So to enable that, if we're using the default search plugin, there's another new option here, index stock status. I'm going to enable that. If you enable this, you will have to run a database migration, or if you've got the database on to synchronize, then it will just update the database schema for you. If you are using the Elasticsearch plugin, it will just happen automatically. You don't need to make any config changes. The reason it's behind a flag here is that we want to preserve backwards compatibility without having breaking changes. So I'm just restarting the server now, and what I'll have to do now that I've enabled that option is that I'll just rebuild the search index. Okay, so the search index has been rebuilt. Now let's go over here, and we'll see if we make a search query now, we can access this new field, in stock. That's a Boolean, it'll show us whether that product is in stock. Not only that, we can now filter by that stock status. So if we want to see only in stock product variants, we get them there, and likewise, you can also see those that are out of stock. See, there's 358 out of stock right now. Here's another nice API improvement. So in Vendure, there's many queries that return a particular kind of object called a paginated list. This is used for long lists that need to be paginated. And these queries also include a very standardized kind of input object with skip, take, sort, and filter parameters. I'll show you an example of this. So here's a product variance query. We're going to take, let's take 10, and we'll use a filter here, and we want any product variant which name contains Bob Ross. And here we go, there's 91 altogether. Now, what if we want to add another filter? So let's also filter on the SKU, and we're going to ask for SKUs containing PPS, and we get none. So the thing that's happening here is that the filters are combined with a logical AND operation. So it must have the name Bob Ross, and it must have the SKU PPS. Sometimes you don't want that, sometimes you want to have either or. So this new API allows us to specify filter operator, and we can set that as an OR operation. And now we'll get the results we want. We want the Bob Ross name or the PPS SKU. The last thing I want to demonstrate relates to building custom code in your own plugins. So it's quite common that you'll be using some kind of internal Vendure service, such as here, the product variant service. And here we're using it to get the product for a variant, and we end up with this product right here. And here we're just trying to return an array of facet value names. Seems simple, and TypeScript is happy. The problem is this is going to give a runtime error. The reason is that this method right here, get product for variant, does not internally join the facet values relation on the product entity. We don't know that though, so the only way to figure that out is to see the runtime error, or to have lots of defensive code checking whether these relations have actually been joined or not. And what you would have to do is something like this. So we would then manually refetch that product and explicitly join that relation, and then return it like this. Now there's another problem here. There is still a runtime error, and the reason is that this name property is dynamically populated, and it has to be manually translated like this. So we would then map it here, and we would use the translate deep function. Now this function should work as expected, but as you can see, all of this is not obvious and it's prone to error, and it also gives a lot of extra code that we'd rather not write. So with version 1.3, there's a new helper class which we can import, It's called Entity Hydrator. And it works like this. We can get rid of this, and we can get rid of this. We can set that back like that, and we're going to do it like this. It's got a single method, and we pass it the request context, and we pass it the entity that we want to hydrate, and then we can specify the relations that we want to ensure are there. And the nice thing here is that this is type safe, so it shows us what we can actually select. So in this case, we know we want facet values. And the way this hydrate function works is smart. So if it's already been joined previously, it won't do another query, but it will query for those relations that don't yet exist. And we can also do deeper joins like this, and it will make sure that all the previous entities have also been joined so that we get all the data that we expect. The other nice thing is that for any translatable entities such as facet value, it will also automatically perform the translation. So that name property there will be accessible. And if we want to select product variants, it will also allow us to very easily populate all the product's variant price data, which is another quite complex operation that we now no longer have to manually worry about. There's a lot more in this release that I've not covered here, so check the blog post where you'll find out about big improvements to the Elasticsearch plugin, performance improvements, lots of new documentation and more. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank the contributors who've contributed pull requests to this release. Some of them very, very significant, so thank you very much for that. Let me know your feedback and see you next time.